Hi guys, we're going to do another trap. With the last one we did was the traditional Siberian Deadfall trap. This trap is a variation of it, and it's kind of an easier one to carve, and I just kind of call it the easy carve Siberian Deadfall trap. It's basically the same trap, it's just a little easier to carve, and it's slightly more sensitive too. And it still comes with 3 components. They're not too bad to carve. The first component is, well, let's do it this way. First component is your upright stick, and basically it's just a round stick, and I cut a notch out of it and squared the 2 sides off like really quick. Nothing fancy, you know, it is what it is. And on the bottom side, all I did was put just a little slight notch on it, and I didn't even square it up or nothing because this sits on the ground. It's just a little extra to help it flip out. And the next component is the top part, and the top part basically sits, whoops, flies. Top part, or the bottom part, sits like this. The top part sits on top of this like this, on that little wedge, on that ledge, and this part is just wedge shaped, and your weight goes right here, and it automatically wants to break apart, you know, as you're doing that. So basically all you do with this is you make a wedge, nice square wedge, and then you just cut that off. Pretty easy to do. So then of course the next part's the trigger stick, and it's not changed at all. It just has a nice square notch in it, and you just put this in there. And the trick to this one is, it's really hard to set when you're like got it on your knee or something, but when you set it on the trap, it's, you know, underneath the deadfall part itself, it's not so bad. But it sort of sets kind of like that, and this thing's already half pushed over. You just barely touch it and the whole thing wants to fall apart. So let's go ahead and carve this thing up. I'll get some sticks and we'll carve this thing up. I'll be right back. Okay, so the first piece we're going to do is we're going to carve this. I went ahead and took the liberty and I cut off a piece of, this is maple. That's what I've been making all these out of. So it's a little longer. I think we're going to leave it a little longer because I kind of want to set it up for a little bit bigger game. So we're gonna put a cut in here and split out a nice square chunk. And it's easy enough done. You just put a cut in here, then you split it out. And I'm not going to do it on camera, all of it, because you guys have seen me do this a million times. But basically that's all there is to it. And you don't want it to be too much of a split. And basically that's all you want. Just a little ledge for that to sit on. I'll go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and then we'll go on to the... Okay, so we got that all cleaned up, and that's kind of what it looks like. It's just a little ledge on here. So the next thing we're going to do is, the top of this can stay exactly the way it is, it's fine. The bottom needs to be cut right through here a little bit, and that's easy enough done with a knife. You just go ahead and put a little taper on it. This just helps it kick a little better. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. That right there is good enough. So the only other thing we gotta do is we gotta square off each side of this, and that's pretty easily done too. So now it's nice and square on the sides, and then we're going to square the back of it off too, just on the top half. So there, what you got is a square all the way around on the very top, left it round at the bottom and cut a wedge on it, and the first piece is done. Okay, so the second piece needs to be wedge shaped, so we're going to use this for our second piece. I'm going to go ahead and clean the bark off of it, and I'm going to wedge it so that it's wider here and smaller here. So basically I'm just wedging this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off and work on this a little bit. And all I'm doing is checking it to see if it fits nice against this other piece. And I just keep working on it until it fits the way I like it. It's pretty close right there. Okay, so the wedge part's done. It sits in there just like that, breaks like this. The only thing I got left to do now is square this edge up and this edge back here up so that it's even with this backside, which is pretty easy to do. You just kind of play around with it a little bit. And it's pretty close already. It just needs a little bit taken off. Careful not to get your fingers too at the same time. And just a hair more and it'll be right there. And that is pretty close. So that's what you end up with. Now the other thing we need to do is cut an angle on the top of this so that all the pressure is all the way out here. And we'll do that simply. Okay, so now that we got these two pieces done, I'm going to go ahead and and they're breaking away pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a mark on the side of it like I did the other ones. That way we know how to put these together all the time. And I just put a little groove in there, so that way when I set this trap, whether it be light out or dark out, I know exactly the way it should sit all the time. And it's just a tiny little light groove, nothing serious, just enough to give you a little mark on it. So now that I got these marks on here, now I know it always sits like this. And when I set this under the trap, my short piece always goes underneath the actual weight itself, so it sits like that. That way when it breaks away like this. So the next thing is just to make a trigger stick, and I'll be right back with that. Okay, so I got this stick here. Let me go ahead and it looks straight right in here, so I'll go ahead and cut that off, and we'll get ourselves a decent little trigger stick out of this. So let me go ahead and cut it off. And I think we'll cut it off, right about here. So now all we need to do is put a point on one end, and the other end you really don't have to do much of anything with. I will flatten it out a little bit just to make it look nice. That's good enough. This end I'll put a point on. And I'm just putting a point on here for demonstration. You could tie your bait on the end, you could split it, put your bait on that way. I may end up splitting this again anyways and putting my bait on that way. So the next thing I do is take my upright sticks and I basically just lay them on my leg like so and put them in there just about like that, just like you would the other one, and I just put a mark on each side, and that's where my square notch will be. So then you just cut in and put your square notch in like you normally would. So let me go ahead and do that and I'll get back with you. Okay, so now I got my square notch in there, and this basically sits in there just like that. And here, let me do it that way. Sits in there basically just like that, and underneath the post stick. So let me go ahead and set this thing. Actually, it sits like that, but anyways, I always want the short piece towards the actual deadfall itself. So let me go ahead and set this thing, and we'll show you how it goes off. Okay, so setting this thing's relatively easy. You just lift up your deadfall, put your stick out there on the end of it like this, and then you set this thing in here. And it could be a little tricky to get this set just quite right. And I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but anyways, so it's set. So all you gotta do now is, I usually give it a second, make sure it ain't gonna fall over. And if it ain't gonna fall over, then you just set it off. And both your pieces land on the outside of the trap just like you want, and your trigger stick is about halfway out. But anyways, that is another variation, kind of what I call the easy carve variation to the Siberian Deadfall trap. And just wanted to share that with you. So I just wanted to say thank you, and if you like the trap, share, subscribe, comment on the videos, like the videos. But anyways, I just want to say thank you and thanks for watching.